I bought this dirty, yellowed PlayStation Portable for 119 Australian dollars, around 80 US. I plan to refurbish and customize it with a custom case in green, creating what some might call the Shrek Station Portable. There are several hardware iterations of the PSP, sold from 2004 till 2014. This is one of the later revisions, model 3000 from 2008. Older generation consoles like the PSP still have a following from those feeling nostalgic or those who want to play older titles that may not be available on newer consoles. Which is why they can still fetch a decent amount of money, when a phone or computer from that era is practically worthless. It doesn't appear the seller of this particular console went to any trouble to clean it. This well-used PSP has quite a lot of dust under the outer display, and all of the buttons are caked in grime. The case has also yellowed slightly, so I think this is a good candidate for a custom housing. I purchased this one on AliExpress for 14 US dollars. It's designed to fit the PSP models 3000, 3004 and 3006. It was available in a few different colours. I chose green in this case for something different, plus I think it's going to look really nice. Let's start taking this PlayStation Portable apart and see how complicated it is to work on. Once the battery is removed, I can begin unfastening the 7 case screws, one of which is hidden below one of the stickers in the battery compartment. I wanted to lift the sticker without damaging it. I found a sharp pick to be ideal. With the case screws out, the front can be lifted off. There's only a single clip on the right side still holding the case together. Once worked loose, the panel comes free. If you were looking to just clean the display, this is as far as you'd need to go, now having direct access to the LCD. For us, however, we'll need to dig deeper and remove all of the components inside the PSP. The first of which is the home bar. As there's quite a number of revisions, many minor things have changed internally also. Some models, this piece is only clipped in at the right side. For our model, it's screwed in on the left and housed below a section of the midframe. Once the single screw is removed, the frame can be lifted up just enough to free the home button bar's mounting bracket. Next, the display can be unclipped from both sides before being folded up, allowing access to the home bar and display's flex cables. Most of the components are now just sitting in the housing. They rely on the outer case screws to hold them in, so once their cables are unplugged, they just lift free. We do need to be careful of the 2 trigger buttons, which are adhered to the frame. Each need to be carefully lifted free of the frame without tearing the tiny flex cable linking it to the rest of the button assembly. On the left side, there is also a thumbstick secured with a single screw and a flex cable. The DC jack is next. Just one screw and a plug to detach is all it takes to replace. Already a better design than many of the newer portable consoles on the market, like the Nintendo Switch, which has its USB-C port soldered directly to the board. The button membrane is adhered down. Tear it and it'll need to be replaced as your buttons won't work. There was a small trace running to the edge. At first I thought it was running to the other side of the console, however after lifting the side trim, it didn't go anywhere. So I'm not sure what its purpose is. The right side speaker is held in by a plastic tab that can be pushed to either side to release the speaker. Now it's time the motherboard comes out. 2 flex cables for the UMD drive need to be unplugged and part of the bezel removed to free the mini USB port soldered to the board. This particular motherboard houses 64 MB of RAM, 64 MB of storage, and Sony's custom CPU and GPU. For almost a 20-year-old device, it's quite compact, much more so than I was expecting. There's still one more component to remove from the old housing, and that's the UMD drive. The cartridge bracket on this particular model can be unclipped and slid inward to unlatch it from the drive lid. Then, slightly bending the right of the frame, the lid can be released from the hinge pins. With access to the UMD drive, its 4 screws can be unfastened before it's lifted from the case. being sure to retrieve any of the rubber mounts that get left behind and reattach them to the drive module, as they help reduce vibration, which can in turn stop disk reading errors. With the console completely disassembled, it's time to get everything reassembled into the new transparent green housing. We'll start with the UMD drive. UMD standing for Universal Media Disc, Sony's proprietary disc format that only saw use on the PSP, making it not very universal. Overall, the disassembly process was quite manageable, with the exception of there being various models, which have variations to their disassembly process, which complicates things. The cartridge bracket I removed no longer fits this new housing, as it must have been modelled from a different version of the PSP. Thankfully, a replacement was included. You can see mine clipped into place, while the replacement slides over the locating pins and is overall slightly longer. Fitting the replacement, it now correctly lines up. From what I could find online, models that use this type of bracket have some foam beside the locating pins to prevent the bracket from sliding off the pin. I recreated something similar using some adhesive-backed foam from a large roll, cutting it down to size. With that, we can close the UMD drive, flip over the console, and attach the lid spring and its retention piece of plastic. On the old case, this was part of the bezel. On the replacement, it's a separate piece that clips in. It's the many small changes that catch you off guard when repairing consoles. As most manufacturers sell the same console for 5 to 10 years, they make small revisions or different models for different regions. While they may all look the same, they can change things to improve reliability or to simplify the manufacturing process. In some cases, that means parts are incompatible or screws don't line up between models. So it's important you check the parts you are purchasing are for your exact model, and be aware that some of the guides and procedures may differ from the unit you're working on. With the motherboard installed, it's time for the speaker before the button membrane is re-adhered. For 2004, this would have been considered a complex device to repair. Today, it's considered easy when compared to newer devices on the market that use much more adhesive, various security screws, and even software, in some cases to limit repair. This kit includes a green thumbstick. Removing the old one only requires prying it up and pressing the new one on, so it's an easy part to replace. Many of the original components are filthy, so a quick brush off will clean them up nicely. Once the thumbstick is reinstalled, the left side button membrane is to go in next. This needs to be positioned with the memory stick door slid out to prevent it from being jammed against the motherboard. Preceding that, the trigger buttons and their retention clip. It's important to pay attention to the L and R markings on each trigger, as putting the wrong trigger in will cause it not to press correctly. Things are starting to piece together nicely. I'll get the home bar and display's flex cables attached. The display being somewhat challenging to plug in given its short cables. The home bar will need to have its mounting point placed below the lower left-hand corner before it's positioned into place. The microphone was just floating mid-air, so I added a bit of adhesive to secure it. With the main unit complete, it's time we turn our attention to the faceplate. It needs to have the new green buttons fitted. If you have multiple housings, you could mix and match. However, white and green are two colours that don't work together, so I'll use the green ones. There's another membrane for the D-pad that needs to be attached behind the new buttons to allow them to work, along with the microphone grill from the old faceplate. Removing the protective film, the main unit can be placed on top of the faceplate and have its screws reattached. The reason we need to do it this way is to prevent all the buttons falling out when we try to join the two halves. Installing the battery and its cover, the console is back in one piece. Now all that's left to do is remove the plastic protective film. And we're done. So this is it, a PSP 3000 with a new custom transparent case. Having never worked on one of these before, it was interesting to see how it's held together. If you're looking to do something similar, these are a good device to work on. However, just be sure you're following the correct guide for your model. The case is certainly an improvement and looks fantastic. Despite its age, I'm sure someone will enjoy it. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the console playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.